One of the things that the Jaguars have done well is move on from bad plays and get back to the winning. I'll tell you how that has affected this team this year on Locked On Jaguar.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is a fact that it is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is a part of the #1 sports podcast network. We thank you for making us your first listen. Shout out to the everydayers. It is your team every day. We say that for a reason here across our network, and welcome you. I'm glad that you are here. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of this podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you tap in to that location each and every day so you do not miss an episode. The Jaguars are 12-4 with a chance to get to 13-4 with a home celebration, if you will, in Week 18 versus the Tennessee Titans. It feels like we're dreaming, so that's why I'm going to end the show telling you that big aspirations feel real dreamy. It feels I got to pinch myself. Right in the middle of the show, what comes next? Well, what comes next is you're going to get a hint by what I'm going to tell you in the first segment, which is the big picture is the little picture. What do I mean by that? How can a picture be big and little at the same time? Because the big picture is made up of a whole bunch of little snapshots. And what that picture is going to look like for the Jacksonville Jaguars will be determined by what they do right this minute and then what they do the very next minute. Liam Coen in his pressure today, and I apologize in advance for my voice. Something jumped on me again, and I guess it's part of being a granddad, but it is what it is. But I apologize for my voice if it sounds like I'm laboring a little bit today. I actually am, but we're going to give it to you anyway. Here's the deal. They are so intentional on being where your feet are. And Liam Coen mentioned that today. If you haven't heard it, I'm not going to aggregate it. Go listen on Jaguars.com to his entire interview that he did with everyone. The last question was the one that I was able to fortunately have a chance to ask. And how has this team been able to, how has he gotten this team to move on from negative stuff? The hook and ladder yesterday, the throw by Trevor. And I threw in a little bit of we're basically used to them getting into a funk. How did you change that basically? How did you, without throwing people under the bus that were here before, just how have you gotten them to do something that we never used to see them do? We never would see the Jaguars get over something bad happening, and it would allow bad things to keep going and keep going and keep going. And his answer, it wasn't surprising, but there was an element to it that actually did shock me a little bit. He said, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. My question was basically focusing on the bad, but to show you how incomplete it was, and this is why you can always learn, and I don't ask leading questions. Because when you ask someone an open-ended question, they're going to give you answers that will usually, especially when they're transparent, because they don't mind being vulnerable about it, and they'll tell you. They'll usually give you way more. And this is why when people ask me what my #1 skill is, I say it's listening. I learned something. I learn something every day. I learn something from people that I argue with, but I learned something today. That moving on past a bad play and getting to the next play also requires that you cannot be selective. You have to also move on from the good plays and get to the next play. You see, you don't get to turn it on and off. You don't get to have a good play. And while he mentioned that you can build on that, he said, okay, that worked. So let's keep it going. But that play doesn't help you a lick on that next one. However, whatever you did to make that play, you got to make another one. You got to execute. And it's going to be hard because you're going to get resistance. And regardless of whether it's bad or good, you got to move on to the next thing. And it's impossible to teach people to move on to the next thing when a play is bad if you also don't teach them to move on to the next play when the play is good. So while I was wondering how they were able to get this team and this bunch, and namely the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, as well as some of the defensive players, to not hang their head when they make mistakes. Because in the past, what we've seen this whole Jacksonville or Trevor Lawrence experience. Isn't it amazing that in the second half of the year, we don't talk about that experience anymore? And that's what I'm getting to. It goes back to something that we talked about earlier and we had been talking about for a long time, when everybody was calling me a 16 hater. When what I kept saying was, he has highs, very high, and then he has lows. And too many times, the difference between those highs and lows are wide. Wider than the St. Johns River from one side to the other. You're going to have some plays that are lows, but you don't dwell there. You don't let it keep building up. You don't have to make up for the last thing that happened. You learn from it, garbage in, garbage out, and you move on and you make a play the next time. And now Trevor Lawrence is making a play, and then he's making a play, and then he's making a play, and those mistakes are few and far between. You are to the point now where you're surprised when Trevor Lawrence does something that he's not supposed to do. I was shocked when he got a pick interception just yesterday. Totally surprised. And that's a good state of mind and a good place to be. And Liam Coen mentioned that it's the hard work of the coaches. He talked about Grant Udinsky. He talked about all of the other guys on offense and how they constantly meet with him. And it gives you a little bit of a glimpse and an idea. I think everybody thinks that Liam and Trevor are like joined at the hip all day long. And he's in his ear all day long. No, Liam's the head coach. Liam is probably allowing those guys to do to Trevor what Liam was able to do with Baker and the other quarterbacks when he coached in LA. And now he's off doing whatever Sean McVay and Todd Bowles was doing. And they have this alignment and this trust. And he knows that whatever he is wanting Trevor to learn, he's learning it from these people because these are his guys. This is why alignment is so important. And this is why people are missing the boat when they think that it's all about coaches hiring their friends. They're doing that. They're having these conversations in college as well as the pros. It's not necessarily my friends. It's just people that think just like me, so there's no confusion. Many times we see busted plays on football fields. It ain't as simple as just the dude making a boneheaded mistake. Sometimes there's just not alignment in the way things are being taught. We don't have such problems here in Jacksonville. What comes next? That's the question we're going to answer in segment 2. And I'm going to give it to you right now a little bit. What comes next is whatever is next. Whatever I'm supposed to be being a master at today, that's exactly what I'm going to do in my preparation. Remember, Tom Coughlin talked about grit. And he said, whatever I'm going to win today, whatever there is to win or something like that, I'm going to do it right now. It's called living in the moment. And the Jaguars are living in the moment, and I want y'all to live in the moment and enjoy it because I think we're going to be here for a while, so we don't have to speedball and act like we got to enjoy this right now and because it's going to go away. It's not. I'm just wondering now how far we can go, and we'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at one time. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy, man. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stat projections. And you know what that means? That means you will win. What do you win? Well, it's totally up to you, man, and how much you're willing to wager. But I tell you what, it is the absolute truth in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right, moving along here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, of course, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. We're in rare air around here in Jacksonville, and I gotta make sure that I don't get ahead of myself, because one of the things that I have preached for, openly petitioned for, was to wake up one day and realize that the Jacksonville Jaguars are one of the 7-8 best teams in the National Football League. And that it's not a one-off. That you're going to wake up one day with an expectation that you're going to win. Not a hope and a wish that you're going to win, but an expectation that you're going to wake up and win. And mainly, I didn't necessarily want that for me. I wanted it for the city, and I wanted it for the fans. Because quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you. I get good ratings when the team is terrible, just like I get them when the team is good. When the team is stuck in Middlington or whatever that is, you know, my fellas know that whenever you add an ington on something, what that means. When they're Middlingtons, the crowd comes and goes a little bit. But when they're good or when they're really bad is when people are there. Therefore, I'm really, really happy that people are here because they're good. And I think the Jaguar fan base finally is showing. It's not like what they're doing is saying, yeah, we've been bad for so long, now we're going to give it to y'all. I know people are verbalizing that, but what I read through that is this. What I read through that is them saying, how you like me now? And we're going to be here for a while, so get used to it. And I told anybody who would listen that the Jaguar fans, when the Jaguars turned this corner, they were going to become insufferable because of all the suffering that people have put the Jaguars through. Namely, the Jaguars have put the Jaguar fan base through a lot of struggling. And then there were people that's always willing to point fingers at it. So what's next? What do we do now? Well, the first thing we do is we go win the AFC South, and we win 13 games by beating the Tennessee Titans. So I'm going to give a call to action to all the fans that have tickets, that want tickets, that want to be a part of the last regular season home game where you're going to see full capacity because of the way the stadium is built. And I said regular season because hopefully the Jaguars will play a couple of playoff games at home. And if it goes right, they might play all of them at home, with the exception of the Super Bowl, because I think anybody can be beat in the AFC. You got to go out and win this game this week and win it in a way where the standard is the standard. You play to your standard every time you get the opportunity to go out on the field and show what you've been working on. You do it. You got two options. You can either look like yourself or look like somebody else. And the easiest thing to do is look like yourself because, well, you are you. And that's what I want the Jacksonville Jaguars to do. And it's a practice that I think will bode well for them long and short term. But Liam Coen made it very, very clear. They haven't talked about the division. They haven't talked about the playoffs. They haven't talked about the Super Bowl. They haven't talked about any of that stuff. He said yesterday after the game, we got enough stuff after each game that we need to be coaching and working on. And I think it's gotten to the point with these players that it seems like the work, while it's not easy, I will never say something that I don't do is easy. They make it look easy. They make it look fun. Maybe if you find a job that you love doing and you find a workplace where you can go to work every day, you'll never really work another day in your life, because this one is paying off mightily. The hard work, the determination, the dedication, the attention to detail, the next man up mentality, the bond, the closeness, it's all because of the leadership. It's all because of the leadership. When they talked about getting guys to come in here and tapping into their superpower and just being the best version of themselves and being intangibly rich, it's something we heard a little bit. I gave it to you today. This is what that looks like. Be where your feet are. Wherever you're at right now, let's just handle this business and master it with everything that we have in us. But you're going to do it with toughness. You're going to do it with love, tough love. You're going to do it together. You're going to do it as one. Shout out to Robert Hainsey, too. I didn't mention this because I think I was on vacation when it happened. They said Robert Hainsey, the center, had an open bar celebration for all of the staff at the Miller Electric Center or something like that. That's awesome. It's more than a gesture, though. It's who they are. And this is how you go out and you get good people to bring it to an organization, but then you have to give those people instructive construction, a plan to be good at what they do. Can you imagine a situation where that thing you do, and I want y'all to keep your mind out of the gutter, but that thing you do, you think you do it better than anybody, where somebody just told you to come to work every day and just do that thing. Yeah. Can you imagine what that feels like? And then to actually have people cheering you on for it. And then the fear of not doing it, it's not letting you down. You don't want to let your teammates and your coaching staff down. That's called reverence. And I've used that term a lot because that's the way I felt about my grandmother. Grandma was like Sophia from the Golden Girls. She was 4'11". She wasn't beating me up. But when she told me she was going to kick my you know what when I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, I got afraid because I was afraid of disappointing her. I was afraid. I was already mad at myself for making that lovely woman have to speak to me that way. And I think football kind of works the same way. I know the military did. I love hard coaching. I ain't never had no problem with nobody. You know what? Let me fix that. I did have a problem in high school with people yelling at me, but I got over it when somebody told me I'm not yelling at you because I care about you. So I don't mind hard coaching. And I think when I told y'all that these dudes were not soft, no matter what you thought their demeanor was, I meant it because I read people very well. These dudes ain't no joke, man. And this team ain't no joke. I think they're going to beat the you know what. They're going to beat the butterbeans out of the Tennessee Titans this week. And then whoever and whatever we got to play, spot the ball. That's what we're going to tell them. Yeah, we got to have a home playoff game. And if we win that one, you're going to try to send us somewhere else. That's fine. The Jaguars are going to spot the ball. You see how all of a sudden started feeling better when I started talking that way? I don't, but it sounds like my voice kind of went up a little bit. It's because it's about the next best thing. Big aspirations feel dreamy. Don't get caught up in the dreams, man. This ain't no dream. This is a reality that is, the reality of this is this is real. You can pinch yourself all you want to. This is real. This is tangible. And it's because of the hard work, the dedication, and the alignment of this front office. I'll talk to you about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show sponsored, brought to you by Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating taxes and tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is an all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnfl for 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. One more time, that's gusto.com/lockedonnfl. Third and final segment here on Victory Monday. And we haven't talked much about the game because we did that yesterday on a post-game show and then last night on a squad show with Marquise Ogden and, of course, the great host Mia O'Brien of the Jaguar Squad Show. Make sure you guys tap into that show also twice a week. Our Everydayers Club. That's for y'all, man. We're going to have the same show here we do all the time here on Locked On Jaguars, but the Everydayers Club, look down in that description wherever you get your podcast, and you can tap on that and become an Everydayer. You're already an Everydayer, but you can take it a little bit further. For $5 a month, have access to our merchandise as well as ad-free audio episodes of the podcast. So make sure you become an Everydayer here on Locked On Jaguars. Big aspirations, man. They feel dreamy. I have to wake myself up every day when I wake up and I'm like, man, I can't believe we're here. I sat here and did podcasts for years. I did radio for years. And aside from 2 seasons, basically over the last, 15, 16, maybe even 17 years, it's been the same old thing, the same script. And now it's a little bit different. And I got to give Liam Coen credit for it, Tony Baselli, James Gladstone, the players, and the fans. And this is where I'm going to give y'all an attaboy. There are a lot of people that didn't believe it. I ain't going to believe it till I see it. I didn't expect y'all to actually believe it now. Remember I used to talk about that baggage and Stockholm Syndrome and all of that stuff, and I'd be like, hey, man, you guys got to give them a chance to let that go. And folks are like, same old Jaguars. No, I can't let it go. I can't let it go. They always do this. I was saying, no, man, when you change the people in an organization, the results will change. It might not, it takes a little bit, but it does change. Well, I'd say about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the Jaguars fan base really realized that. To show you how contagious getting over things really quickly can also spread to the fan base. The Jaguars got over that Houston game. I know it hurt. That fourth quarter hurt. It may have been 2 weeks where the Jags was like, I hope we play them again, spot the ball. That's what the fans were basically making it feel like. The fans were basically making it feel like, yeah, that was an anomaly. That ain't going to happen no more. That's what it felt like. Y'all got over it real quick. That also comes from open, honest communication. Folks getting out of their feelings. Paying attention to what's on the field. Not what was in the past. Believing in this process of Trevor Lawrence now going out there making line calls and changing plays and going into his toolbox, as Liam Coen calls it, and getting them in and out of good stuff. Liam said that. That's Trevor doing that. To extract all of his competitiveness and to be able to instill in him confidence, or the level of confidence that's required for him to now break that huddle and come up, take a picture, see what he has, and get the Jaguars into the exact play that the coaching staff probably, I know Liam's over there looking like, okay, I see it. Do you see it? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Trevor sees it. He's like, there you go. He sees it. Now you got to execute it. It's a beautiful thing because it's like the more attention to detail you pay attention to, the easier it is for him to go out and just play football. Whereas some people in the past may have thought, oh, just oversimplify things and just let him go out and play. No, you still have to do the details. You have to do everything. Wanting it ain't enough. It only gets done if you execute it. And if it doesn't get executed, then the very next play, you got to get back on it and do it again. Liam said it today. He said, okay, he burnt you or whatever, now go out there and whip his, the next play. He said the word. I ain't going to say it. It rhymes with sass. It just feels like a dream, man, that we're here. I'm telling you, I see all the fans, whether it's guys in the BCB, folks at work, at the water cooler, the football self-esteem, in not even a full year has gone sky high because you believe in what you see. And we got here because they emptied the house out and restocked it with people that are in line with each other. And I'll say this for the 100,000th time. Shout out to Trent Baalke for at least building this thing to the point where this was something that a coach could come in here and do. Because trust me, if they didn't have the pieces and parts, this wouldn't be possible. And that's one of the reasons I told everybody that the Jaguars had a chance to be really good this year, because I thought they won 4 games last year, and you are what your record says you are. But anybody with a brain saw that team last year and knew that they were more talented than 4-13, which is why they had to switch up and change everything. I'm just so happy for the fans, and I'm happy for this city. From a big picture standpoint, I think this is going to be here for a while. But I have to hold myself back and take Liam Coen's advice and say, nope, let's just win today. Today. We'll get to tomorrow, but today we're going to win today. We're going to do everything we can today. If you don't do everything you're supposed to do today, if you're focusing on tomorrow, today, then when you get to tomorrow, whatever you didn't do today, which is yesterday, you ain't going to be able to do it then, because you need to be doing whatever you get my point. I told you I ain't feel well, and this medicine starting to kick in, but that you get the point. The point is, it feels like a dream, and I'm very, very glad to be on this side of it with the fans of this city and the fans of this podcast, because without y'all, there ain't no us. You're an everydayer for a reason, and you can take it a step further by joining our Everydayer Club. $5 a month, access to ad-free audio, as well as our merch store. So make sure you go check that out to pump you being an everydayer up to another level. And there's levels to that. Make sure you give it a good look. We'll be back tomorrow as we start to build up for the last regular season game. A chance for the Jacksonville Jaguars, 1 o'clock Sunday, to clinch the AFC South championship and to set their place in where this playoff run is going to begin for Jacksonville. We'll see you on Locked On Jaguars.